Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have talked about these new initiatives that government has put in place, but just to reiterate again, because sometimes we find the opposition don't seem to understand it in the first round. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you know, a lot of people have lost their jobs. The first lot that actually was hit were those in the tourism sector. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we had a discussion with the FNPF. The FNPF had with the board, and they had to change some of the standing policies they had, where we allowed those members who had lost their jobs to the tourism sector to withdraw up to $1,000 from the general account. And what we had also announced then, Mr. Speaker, sir, that if they don't have enough money, as in $1,000 in the general account, government will top up to make it $1,000, and which they could withdraw lump sum. Then we also made an announcement, Mr. Speaker, sir, that those people who are affected by the lockdown, as we had, for example, in Lautoka, then subsequently we had in Suva, where people weren't able to go to work for those 2 weeks, they could access $500. And again, we said that we would top that up. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, that obviously has taken place. And as of last week, there were around 87,489 applications received by FNPF. Mr. Speaker, sir, of this, around 78,518 members have been paid a total of $49.7 million, Mr. Speaker, sir. Around 18,540 members have received the government top-up, totaling $6.8 million, with the remaining $42.9 million deducted through their general account. There are about 4,600 applications which are to be processed this week, and indeed paid out by the end of this week, and of course, there will be implications for government's top-up for that too. We had also, Mr. Speaker, in the first round announced that those in the informal sectors, in the lockdown, and those who have, for example, business licenses or hawkers license, could actually come and have a government payout, of $150, because these people generally don't have FNPF. We have paid out in total, because we had very few applications, $26,850 in that respect. They included businesses, for example, peanut sellers, grog sellers, tailoring, weaving, the people who, for example, repair things down at the market, etc., shoe shine people, small canteens, barbecue sellers. They were that's the kind of portfolio of people who actually came and took out $150, which government paid directly from its own budget allocation. As announced, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the second phase, which was announced last week Friday, we are now saying to those people who actually withdrew the $1,000, and those people who withdrew the $500 and have lost their jobs, they can now withdraw up to $1,100. Again, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are going to provide a top-up. Given that a lot of the people who will be applying for this, as I mentioned, for example, the garment workers, who don't actually have very large sums in their general account, because a lot of them have been withdrawing funds on a continuous basis or for other purposes, or may not have that much money in their general account, we'll be topping it up. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this lot of people who already received in the first round, they will no longer be able to get a lump sum. They will be paid $220 a fortnight for the next 5 fortnights. Now, it will take them up to about the first week of August. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are some people. This week we are paying up to about $4.6 million, because we've said they don't actually have to verify. We have their bank accounts through FNPF. We're working through FNPF. They'll get the $220 deposited. On the following fortnights, Mr. Speaker, sir, they have to actually sign a form to say they continue to be unemployed, because we know of some cases where people may have lost a job in one particular area but actually have been hired by another employer. So we need to ensure that they are the ones, that the right ones are being actually paid out the funds. Then, of course, Mr. Speaker, sir, the category 2 of people there may be some new people. So last week, some people may have lost jobs. So, for example, we have had announcements today. They're entitled to, Mr. Speaker, sir, withdraw a lump sum of $1,100, and subsequently we'll be actually topping it up. We expect, Mr. Speaker, sir, from government coffers to pay about $30 million by the end of July for this category of people. Mr. Speaker, sir, that's the type of assistance we are providing. But I'd also like to highlight, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we are also helping, as announced on Sunday, those people who are employed by themselves through microfinance initiatives. So we'll be providing them loans if somebody is an existing microfinance, a viable microfinance enterprise, up to a loan of $7,000, a concessional loan which they pay over 5 years, with the first year being the grace period. And similarly, Mr. Speaker, sir, those who have small and medium enterprises, they get respectively $14,000 to $21,000 loan, and again with very low concessionary interest rates, Mr. Speaker, sir. One other area, Mr. Speaker, sir, that also helps people, which is a major initiative, Mr. Speaker, sir, in 2012, government had started this initiative to help local businesses and industries to improve private sector lending through the mainstream banks, where through the Reserve Bank of Fiji, we guarantee 50% of the principal outstanding amount on any defaulted small to medium enterprise loan. So for example, assuming that I'm a hairdresser and I've got 2 chairs, and now I want to go and borrow another $30,000 to set up 2 other chairs, I may not necessarily have all the funding, and the banks, however, may turn you away. But with the government guarantee, the banks, knowing that you have a cash flow, your cash flow is good to be able to do repayments, will take your loan. And should you default, the bank is guaranteed that 50% of the default amount will come from government through the RBF. And that has been highly successful, Mr. Speaker, sir, with about $104.6 million in outstanding loans, and the default rate has been very low. As announced on Sunday, Mr. Speaker, sir, whilst the current policy was $50,000 loans, we now are going to give a limit, increase the limit to $60,000 per business, Mr. Speaker, sir. In addition, in order to encourage women's role in driving our economic recovery, Mr. Speaker, sir, and simultaneously to support the development of agriculture, fisheries and forestry sectors, government will now guarantee or pay 75% of the principal outstanding defaulted loans up to a limit of $75,000. So anybody that gets into forestry, fisheries, has a loan from a mainstream bank, or is a woman entrepreneur, we will guarantee up to $75,000 of their loan. And Mr. Speaker, sir. So that, Mr. Speaker, sir, obviously will provide sustained livelihoods, create jobs, and help those people who may actually become unemployed but are able to get into those areas of business. So that's a very short summary of what we have done, Mr. Speaker, sir. We, of course, are currently considering, and these are not necessarily very easy measures to put in place. There are those who are now on reduced hours. So we need to actually set a criteria, because there are some people, for example, whose hours have been reduced from, say, from 5 days a week to 4 days a week. But then there are those whose hours have been reduced from 5 days a week to only 1 day a week. So the question then arises, does the person who now works only 1 day get the same amount or level of assistance as the person who now works 4 days as opposed to 5? And the second group of people, Mr. Speaker, said that we're also considering are those people in the informal sector. There are some people actually who have been living in the informal sector for the past decade or so. I'll give you an example, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I may be a very good tile layer, and I have my own set of tools. People know about me, and I've been doing jobs on all the different construction sites. I don't pay tax, I don't have a TIN number, I don't have a business license. And some of these people actually earn good amounts of money, but suddenly they no longer have a job. Or assuming I'm somebody who's been selling coconuts in Nandi near a resort, and I do, make $200-300 sometimes in a week, or in fact more than that. But now, because there's no tourists, I don't actually pay a tax, I don't have a TIN number, I don't have a hawker's license. Now, if we tomorrow make an announcement and say, we will pay everybody in the informal sector X number of dollars a week, suddenly those people who weren't even working in the informal sector, were just simply staying at home, will come along and say, I used to work too. And there's no form of verification. So we also have to be mindful of those facts and be able to provide a particular criteria through which we can actually register these people. And one of the positives of this, a lot of people now coming forward, wanting to get a TIN number, wanting to get up a business license, and in that way we have better collection of data to be able to make more informed decisions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.